If you've been wishing for deeper trust and authenticity in your relationships, looking for better communication skills with your partner, we hope that you'll join us for our latest course, 10 Essential Skills to Building Stronger and Healthier Relationships.
Yeah. Everything that Walker and I do is something that we put energy into, creating it thoughtfully and intentionally. We're very curious about what might be most helpful for people in building healthier skills in relationship. We recognize it's something that we all need to practice time and time again. And know that we're not just talking about intimate partners in this course, we're talking about family, coworkers, friends. We really want to walk through this process of building healthier relationship in all areas of our life. And we hope that you consider joining us. Enrollment opens February 1st, launching March 20th, first day of spring, and the first day of our retreat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see you there.
Thank you.
My Inner Knowing, empowering you to find your compass for the journey. We are dedicated to supporting you to rediscover and trust your natural ability to navigate life each day by sharing insight and experience through the lens of two professional communicators and their guests. We intend to prompt internal inquiry that supports all those willing to explore a unique path.
Well, hello, Kristin. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Hello.
Good,
Hi.
good. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, thank you. Oh, okay. So we love jumping in to the process of our awareness of my inner knowing. So when you think about what that is for you and where you are now,
hmm
what comes to mind?
Well, when you say process, the first word that comes to mind is journey, because it
Mhm.
truly has been a journey. Um, One that I'm still on, and yet I look back and see how far I've come, which is kind of fun and very, I don't know, gratifying in a way to see that. And yet looking forward, it's like, oh, how much farther can I go? So there's a bit of
Nice.
excitement about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, far. I think
Yeah.
it's far. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and it's fun, even though some days it's not.
Yeah.
Um,
We
but
can talk
yeah.
about those days too.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. But I will say my process has been one of really getting clarity on myself. So I'll start with a recognition maybe 15 years ago now, where I, someone, I don't even remember now how it came about, was asking the question, well, what if what you're feeling isn't actually yours? And I was like,
Mm.
what? You mean that's the thing? and and that was kind of a cool recognition, because I think so much of my life I'm a bit of a sponge and an empath, and I tend to take on what other people are feeling, and then I feel it and I automatically assume that it's mine.
Mm.
And so in the last 15 years, it's really been a journey of deciphering what really is mine, and what
Mm.
have I just picked up because I'm working with so many people that are struggling themselves. Um, and I don't have to take their struggles on as well. So
Mm.
that's been a lifelong pattern where, deciding what's my struggle to work through, what's other struggle to let them work through. Um, Self-subjugation has been a big thing in my background to kind of see, and that's, I guess, the way I'm seeing it and being able to kind of let it go. It's like, nope, that's not mine, that's yours. Because I really care about people. I want to help people kind of on their journey. And yeah, their path is probably, well, not probably, it is very different than mine. So I have to honor them in a way that allows them their path. So Today, it's a lot about self-empowerment, as well as the work I do with others is about empowering them. Um, and I think not everyone's ready for that. A lot of people want in my coaching, they want the cookbook. What's the methodology? What's the approach? I'm like, well, I don't have one because we're all different and we're all unique. So anyway, yeah, my journey's been a lot of twists and turns along the way, but yeah, it's fun and I wouldn't change it for anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
So this, you know, in the last 15 years, when you started trying to figure out, well, what's really mine, and what are my feelings, what's mine versus what are others, and there's not just feelings, it may be a lot of other stuff, and you can explain that. But is there a point where you got to a discernment? Okay, this is how I know what's mine and what isn't.
I wish it was that simple.
Okay.
Because it's still a work in progress today.
Sure. Well,
yeah. And I have to
good point.
remember to ask myself, oh, I'm feeling anger. Is this mine? So I think today, what I recognize is, like if I'm having a great day and then something shifts fairly quickly, then I kind of go through this mental, like, okay, who have I had conversations with? Who have I been around? I mean, what might I be picking up on of others? And when I do that, just sometimes asking those questions, I can feel it like leave or get better. I often think about, I get lighter with it. And so I don't know if there's one moment when I think back, it was more just the idea that, oh, wow, that some of the stuff that I'm feeling isn't mine. I don't have to claim it. I don't have to fix it. I'm a big fixer. I like to,
from one fixer to another. That's funny. I didn't ask it very well. That's the point in, where you say it feels lighter or feels like I'm releasing something. And that's the question, is where is that sense coming to you? What is that point where you're like in your body or in your mind? How does it come to you, and where is it?
Yeah, okay. I get your question now. It's in my body.
Okay.
I have to work to be in my body and not in my head. It's I'm a deep thinker. I love to think things through. That's, I think, a lot of where the fixing comes from. I love to have a big problem thrown at me and dive in to solve the problem and figure things out. So the work has really been almost the somatic embodiment of it. Like, where is it? I'm feeling it in my body. And do that. Then essentially, as a being, I feel lighter because I've asked the questions and there's a recognition that, oh no, that's not mine.
Sure. Does it come to you in different places in the body?
Mostly in the, I would say the stomach, chest area. Yeah. Is where I will feel it. Sometimes in the shoulders, because I will tend to hold a lot of stress in the neck and shoulders too.
Yeah, me too. Those traps are like, especially when you're in front of the keyboard,
Yeah.
You don't do what I do, but I'm sure there are moments of great stress.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. I get it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Was there something, Kristin, for you, like a pain point where there was enough pain in your life that you feel like I don't know, that you could allow the journey to be more intentional?
Yeah, there was, for sure. So I think I've always had kind of moments of this inner knowing, and more as a child and a teenager, but then totally shut that down until I had been married. Like, we were coming up on almost 20 years, and the kids were going to be leaving home soon. And I remember thinking to myself, I felt physically ill
Mm.
and that I just couldn't see another 20 years in the same situation. And so it was a pivotal moment. I was driving to work in that morning, and I'm not sure why that day sticks in my mind. But as I'm driving, I remember kind of looking at the clouds and almost praying in a way, like asking for guidance. I don't know how I'm, supposed to move forward, but I just know that it has to be different than where I'm at. And kind of give me the guidance, because it's felt daunting to get a divorce and leave him. We had so much enmeshed in each other, and businesses and finances and homes. And so, yeah, I mean, it could have been easy to say, no, it would just be easier to stay in the situation, but it felt like life or death. I mean, really, it did.
Mm.
And it was more of an emotional life or death, not a physical.
Right.
But in that moment, I just felt this peace wash over me, as though I knew, okay, one day at a time, I'll be guided. I just trusted that. And even then, I didn't really have any grand insight as to what the next step was going to be. But looking back, that next year was a year of a lot of strengthening physically for myself. I went to Pilates and did some yoga, and I got stronger. I started reaching out to friends again, going, girlfriends, having, lunches and dinners and doing more things kind of on my own. And that I never did. I mean, for the whole time we were married, I had let much of that go. So it was that strengthening and support from my friends and the physical aspect. And through that, I deepened my spiritual connection too. One of my good friends kind of introduced me to someone who, I mean, she was I don't even, she's a minister essentially. I don't know what denomination, but I mean, she just had just the bright light of spiritual that she brought to me. And I remember working with her just on, I mean, I grew up very religious. And I had all these very, dogma, religion. I mean, I'm not Catholic, but Lutheran, pretty strict Lutheran, actually. That's all I thought there was. And so this woman that I'm introduced to, and I'm seeing, oh my gosh, there's Buddhism, there's all these other things, there's, Quakers. And I mean, I couldn't even name them all. And it was fascinating. And I became very open. That was a really opening for me. And I would say that's when I've been on the journey and never stopped.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
What do you think the opening was? Like this again, I'm like looking for those turning points that we reach, and all of a sudden
Yeah.
you're like, whoa, I can accept this. I don't, it's not that I have to take it, but it's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. It was a heart opening for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And the peace, it was just like, wow. And I felt this connection to angels. And again, that's not the
Mm.
first time that in my life that's happened, but those are really pivotal time. And then my grandma, who was deceased, and I felt a connection to her and just a closeness. That next year I'd be baking. She was a big baker, and I would just think of her and,
Yeah.
feel her almost guiding me as I was making this cake or whatever. So it was really cool.
Yeah.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. There is a song that I was introduced to, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago, Kristin, called 100,000 Angels. Have you
Mm.
heard that song?
I don't know if I have, but it sounds
Yeah.
wonderful.
Oh, it is?
It does.
It is. I'll send you the link.
Okay.
Yeah, it is a beautiful, I mean, it is for me, a beautiful experience of feeling held.
Mm.
Yeah, it's really lovely, and the music is very ethereal, and yeah, it's really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to share this because it kind of comes to me now, but I've been practicing a meditation
Mm,
where in the meditation, I am getting very grounded. So I try to have a really strong grounding cord in the beginning, but the
mm,
purpose of the meditation is to reach up and
mm,
to keep reaching up until I'm in a space that the angels can reach down and
mm,
grab my arms and keep pulling me closer to them. And I
mm,
tell you, Teresa, it's like this being held. It's
mhm.
amazing. And I've been doing that just for probably a few days, actually.
Yeah.
And I think physically I feel better.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Anyway.
Can you share it with us?
Yeah. It was something I read about it and I thought, oh,
Sure.
I just want to practice this.
Yeah.
No, and I think the listeners would be interested as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
let's make sure we
absolutely.
get the
I will.
resource.
I
We
Yeah,
will.
love people to refer
absolutely.
resources and just,
Okay.
provide as much as we can. And that sounds lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all here to teach each other, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I don't know if you've ever heard of Ann Tucker, but
Mm-mm.
Ann Tucker's actually a channel for the angels. And
Mm,
I'm reading her book. And
mm.
so the idea came from reading the book, which I can't
Oh,
remember the
okay.
name of it. But
Mhm.
yeah, I'll definitely get that to you because
Cool.
it's really been a neat experience for me.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. We'll post those for sure.
Okay.
Since we're on this topic, what other resources do you feel like have been helpful for you on your journey? Things that stick out, whether it's books you've read or experiences you've had that you feel like have been supportive.
So many. But I kind of tend to go back to the ones that I keep doing.
Mm, mhm,
So 10 years ago, a friend introduced me to Access Consciousness and their clearing statement. And you can actually Google it, or they have a YouTube where they walk you through the clearing statement and what it means. And it's one of those things that it's a strange statement. Like it doesn't make any sense. But it stuck with me. And for 10 years, that statement was in my head. And then probably 3 years ago, I went back to Access Consciousness. I did their bars course, which is really an energy, body energy course. And then I did their basic foundational course where you go even deeper. And I would say that was enough for me. There's more I could do. It's just
mhm,
not calling to me, but that clearing
mm,
statement has been so useful. Like if
mhm,
I'm in a space where I'm feeling all this energy again and I say the statement, it tends to lighten. I'm like, okay, I don't know what it's doing, but it works and I keep using it.
wow.
That's a
So
cool one.
can you say the statement?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Okay,
So
go
it's
ahead.
POC pod, all nines, boys, shorts, povids, and beyonds.
Hmm,
So actually, I didn't say that right. Right and wrong, good and bad, POC and pod, all nines, boys, shorts, povids, and beyonds. So
interesting.
it's an interesting statement. And right and wrong. So we tend to go to this polarization place. And, we think there's a right or a wrong way to do something,
Mhm,
which is the purpose of that. So we're clearing that good and bad, same thing, kind of this
mm,
polarization place. POC and POD is interesting because POC stands for point of consciousness and point of destruction is the pod. So
mm.
again, clearing kind of these energy thought points and things. The other things, I don't know what they stand for.
They're working.
They're working. And
Yeah.
again, there's a YouTube that you can watch, and I can get you the source on
Oh, that'd
that.
be
But
great. That'd be great.
it's just something that stuck with me, and it does seem to lighten the load, sometimes.
Yeah, it's interesting, Kristen. What comes to mind when you're saying that is I'm trained in hypnotherapy
Hmm.
and have done that for a long time. And there are different scripts that you use to help people get more in their body and present that are, well, and I don't know if this is true amongst all modalities in hypnosis, but confusion scripts. And
Mm,
so you're saying things in such a way that don't make sense so that your body is hearing it, not your mind.
yeah.
And so I'm curious, you know, as you
Yeah.
I mean, I'll watch the video. I mean, I'm so curious, but that's what came to
Mm,
mind. Yeah, because we're
yeah.
are always trying to figure it out.
Yes, we are.
But I like it. Yeah. Yeah. Did you have
Yeah.
any awareness in your body when she said the phrase?
I didn't. I was
Okay.
because the acronyms were so unfamiliar. What the heck is she
I
saying?
know.
Right.
Odd. And so I thought it was, I don't know, some foreign language. I'm sorry, my brain just was like,
It's okay.
instead of me feeling it.
Mhm. Yeah. I
Yeah.
felt release in my shoulders
Nice.
when you were saying it. So yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Mhm. What?
No, I'm just thinking I got to go back and listen to the recording so I can,
Yeah.
tune in.
Mhm.
Okay, so that was it. What other things come to mind that you feel like have been supportive of your journey?
Well, along the way, I'm trying to think. I've done so many things. More recently, I will say this idea around um, so the nervous system. So
Mhm,
in
mm,
my work, I'm trained in emotional intelligence, which brings a lot of the mindfulness and a lot of the
mhm,
neuroscience background to it because I work in corporations and oftentimes companies have to have the science to believe it, right? And so that's really a nice piece that I can bring. And the first time I never ever thought in my career I would be teaching like a group of 20 business people to do a mindfulness meditation, which is
mhm.
really simply breathing.
Uh-huh,
But
uh-huh.
it's been fun.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know about this. But when
Yeah.
we're done, they love it. And people
Mhm,
keep doing kind of these simple breathing techniques. And then we have them report back on, how they feel,
mhm,
which is always fun too. So from there, I think I've now more recently been diving into the nervous system,
mhm,
kind of understanding. And Alchemical Alignment is a company that actually my daughter Kelsey got me connected with, and they do some things that are interesting. And every morning, um, I do some movement, which is a
mhm,
combination of some qigong and
mhm,
yoga and other things just to kind of help settle the nervous system. And I find it to be so helpful.
mhm,
Um, and more recently, also been working on my nervous system around money and
mhm,
finances and how to kind of recognize that I've really had some blocks there,
mhm.
not knowing those things. So those are some more recent things. What else? Hmm. I'll keep thinking about it as
No,
we go.
no, it's helpful. Yeah, very helpful. So you mentioned like some movements that you do. Um, do you have a process that you do daily to help ground yourself and get yourself present and as fully in your body as you
Mhm.
can be?
Yes, I do. So human design is where I'm kind of leaning in more today. And
Mm,
so with learning about my human design, and I'm happy to share kind of what I've learned there, but it's caused me to take a step back and say, okay, how can I live a life according to my human design,
Mhm.
um, so that it's more I'm more in the flow and all of that. So the very first thing I tend to do, I get up, around 6:30 in the morning, take care of my animals, and then I journal, and I will sit and journal for 10 or 15 minutes almost every day now. It's pretty like if I don't do it, there has to be a real reason I'm not doing it because it's
mhm,
so meaningful for me. And then
mhm,
I will get up and I will do different types of body movements with the Qigong and Alchemical Alignment actually has 2 or 3 short videos you can purchase. And I've purchased those. And those are great ones too, just to kind of help ground and do the nervous system. And then, Teresa, what I've discovered, I've had a lot of issues in my life around with the digestion.
Mhm.
And so it's important for me to eat a good breakfast to start off the day. And so I tend to spend time fixing a breakfast, actually cooking, instead of
Mhm.
just what I used to do would be grab a waffle or, a bowl of cereal. I don't do
Mhm.
those things because they just don't start my day off well.
Mhm.
And then I try to start work, 8:30 or 9 if I can. It's not always possible, but that's kind of my morning routine to get me going and get me. Yeah, when I do that routine, my day goes much better.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Caring for ourself and our body very
Yeah.
intentionally. Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm. Yeah, it takes effort. Um, but I know our body appreciates the effort.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mhm.
Yes. Self-care is something that 15 years ago, kind of when I had this, inner knowing that I needed to make some significant change. That's why I started with the Pilates at that time and a little bit of yoga. Um, I mean, I grew up on a farm. I've always been a relatively healthy eater.
Mhm.
Um, Probably my biggest downfall is dessert because I love, desserts.
Ah, yes, sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Walker's doing keto right now, no sugar. And so,
Oh, wow.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm a sugar fiend. I mean, I get you. Anyway, back to you.
Yeah, I've done keto before. It's not easy. Yeah. Well, I 2 years ago discovered that lo and behold, grew up my dad was a wheat farmer. Apparently, I have an intolerance to gluten.
Mhm.
So, I don't know that it's awful, but I do try to eat with, gluten-free as much as possible, and, I think that it helps, but sugar is another thing I need to always think about,
Mhm.
minimize as much as I can. But yeah.
Yes, our body likes it. Mhm.
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
So my self-care, you know, like I say, 15 years ago, I had to really up my game a lot. And I still feel like I do a lot. And much of that includes, wellness visits. I also made a commitment back then because I was getting chronic sinus infections.
Mm.
Mhm.
And I just then every time I would take an antibiotic, I would develop an allergy to the antibiotic. So
Mhm.
Wow.
I have this list of allergies to these medications, and I thought I just can't keep going down this path,
Right.
nor did I want to. So I really dove into how can I naturally heal my sinuses and what might be the cause. And I mean, it's been quite a journey for 15 years to figure that out. And I have not had a sinus infection since. I have not taken this no antibiotics since then either. And I
Mm.
have done everything from Ayurvedic healing and natural kind of eating to seeing not so many dietitians as much, but just more natural healers, kinesiologists.
Mhm.
Right now, I'm seeing a chiropractor up in the Kansas City area. We're doing a lot of acupuncture, laser treatment. I mean, it's ongoing. It just doesn't ever seem to end. But
Mhm.
I feel better. I am 58. I feel like some days I have more energy than I did in my 30s.
Mm.
Um, but I think I depleted my body a lot. Um, 30 years in corporate and then 20
Yeah.
years married to a man it was a complicated marriage. And there was a lot of, trauma and energy happening in that interaction. So, yeah, it's taken a lot of kind of layers to peel back the onion.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, what's occurring to me, because a different place, but a similar path, right? Through
Mhm.
that, um, we can achieve success in the corporate world,
Mhm.
or in the law world for me, up
Yeah.
to, for a long, long time,
Mhm.
until, and without really knowing ourselves or having that opening, right?
Yep.
And then it's like things start happening that's knocking on the door.
Yep.
When you're working with people now,
Mhm.
executives now, how do you start the process of opening, that self, that inner knowing for them?
Mhm.
I have learned, Walker, to let them come to me.
Ah,
And because that was not my MO for many, many years. Most of what I did, I was in a position as an HR leader where, I was almost preaching to people
sure.
and
Okay.
kind of pushing things,
Mhm.
pushing where I thought we needed to be and where we needed to go and what we needed to learn, and really just wearing myself out.
Mhm.
And then I think it's taken I've been, so I stopped my full-time job in corporate 3 years ago. And that has been a complete detoxification. And today, as hard as it is sometimes to wait for people to come to me, that's what I do. I wait for them to come. Now, sometimes they come because they think, oh, I'm having this one person at work that I'm having trouble with. I just need some help with conflict management.
Right.
Or maybe they just need some help I just need to better communicate my points to my team because my team's just not getting it.
Right.
Whatever. And so I'll take whatever they bring, and that's
Right.
where we start.
Mhm.
And we
Um,
go as far as they're willing. And then sometimes that's not very far.
Mhm.
And they have to go on, and maybe they'll come back and maybe they won't. So
Mhm.
I'm
sure.
learning to, meet people where they are, just bring them forward as far as they're ready to go. And then when they're done, I have to be willing to say, okay, this was fun
Mhm.
and I'm done too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
I
There's
try.
in reading your LinkedIn profile, there's some reference to helping people find meaning in work. That, and maybe it wasn't even direct, but that was my sense of it. Okay.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Okay. I love that. It's one of my favorite things to
Yeah.
do. I think that for my generation, being in the corporate world, we were taught to leave the personal life behind. Leave your personal life at the door. You're at work now. It's as though you needed to be a different person. And I truly was a different person
Mm.
at work than I was at home.
Mhm.
And those two things didn't blend. And because I also worked in human resources, where I held a pretty high standard for myself that, we have to keep things very confidential. You don't get caught gossiping. I mean, those things are just unhealthy for an organization in general.
Mhm.
But I felt like I held myself to a much higher, almost a perfectionist standard.
Yeah.
So I think that somewhere along my career, maybe about the time, maybe it was about 15 years ago, I realized that there's got to be more to life than this, right? Where's
Mhm.
the meaning in this? And how do you find purpose? And
Mhm.
I was lucky to work for a CEO who also believed in Abraham Maslow's hierarchy and self-actualization. And so we had a cornerstone pillar in our business around helping people self-actualize. Well, what the heck is that? Right. And
Right.
so it's a big thing to say, oh, we help our employees self-actualize, but how do you do that? And what does that even mean? And so because I was in human resources and also found myself really kind of intrigued with learning and development, and especially leadership development, we took the whole idea, myself and a colleague of mine, around self-actualization and thought, how can we do this? And how can we help individuals create their own path to self-actualizing?
Mhm.
And I'm pleased to say we did it. It was so much fun. And we started off the journey with helping them see, like, if you look back on your life today, what have you done? What have you
Mhm.
achieved? And we would ask them to create this big white piece of paper, sort of using pictures or whatever they wanted to depict the journey of their life.
Mm.
And what that did for people was it opened up this idea that, oh, wow, there's so much more to me than what you see every day when I show up at work.
Mm-hmm.
And we put them on the wall. And so if we had 15 or 20 people in the room, you'd have all these posters around the wall. And just the ahas and the recognition that, man, I've done and accomplished so much. Even people that were 20 something, right? Had these fantastic journeys. So then we spent the rest of the time helping connect them with where they wanted to be going, and that we put them in the driver's seat. You're the driver, you get to choose. It's not about the company telling you, here's the career path I need to be on. Now, the downside of that was when people left the room, they were jazzed and excited about what they discovered, where they wanted to go. And then they go back to work and they work for bosses that don't know how to help them. And people became a little disgruntled and frustrated. So we still had a lot more work to do, but at least we were starting on that path of kind of, how do you bring meaning to your life?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it
Which
making?
is,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. The only thing I was going to add to that is, which is why now when I'm working with people, I don't bring a standard methodology, because I just don't, that doesn't work. I feel like you have to commit to work with me for a long enough period of time that we get to know each other and we can establish, I think, pretty quickly some trust. But then where do you want to go? And I'll help, be there with you along the way. I mean, my preference really is to have long-term clients, not clients that want a quick fix and want to move on.
Yeah. Well, we all want the quick fix, but
Right.
once
Yes.
you've started doing the work, it's like, yeah, that's not it.
No.
To me, there's always going to be something I need to learn.
Yeah.
So, and also interesting, just thinking about executives or people that have gone to high levels in performance, but how much higher, because that's great. And they may be only willing to go so far because they don't see that it could be that much more. But I believe that it could be that much more through processes like you're talking about,
Yeah.
you know,
I do too.
because the satisfaction piece would drive, not just you, but the rest of your team.
Yeah.
So there's a sadness piece for me, and even talking about it, which is fascinating. I'll have to dig into that
Yeah.
and some journaling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I find too, success and how we define success in society by the money you make and the things
Yeah.
that you have. I mean, I work with executives and have in the past that had more money, more things. They couldn't possibly spend it fast enough, and they were
Yeah.
still driven to make more money. And so by our definition of success, they're successful, right?
Yes.
And it was difficult to get them to see how things could even be better for them. Like, you're talking more, and I'm sitting across the table from an executive. This was several years ago. And he's looking at me like, Kristin, I'm dealing with $100 million decisions every day. I mean, what more could there be? And I'm like, you just have no idea. And how do you, and he wouldn't crack open.
Sure.
A lot of them won't, but yeah, sad.
Yeah. Yeah. I think about, for myself, and we've talked about this several times over the last year. What's my number one goal? What is most important to me?
Yeah.
Relationship with myself, with others, or
Yeah.
money, material, whatever. Yeah. And I think it is difficult. Relationship. is probably one of the most complex things that we do.
Yeah.
And the amount of energy that it takes and the effort that it takes to keep trying and to do it well is a lot. And we don't have a lot of good, helpful models. I think there's a lot more research around business and finances and those can be complex too, but there can be a linear piece, and I don't know that relationship with ourself and others is in any way linear.
No,
Yeah.
Do
I
you
agree.
guys think it's harder to work on relationship with others or ourselves?
Oh, self.
Both. I was good. Yeah, it's both. Yeah. I thought well, we can only see what we can see
That's
about
right.
ourselves, right?
Yep.
And then our conditioning. I mean, when I was listening to you talk earlier, just thinking about, my own process of codependency and, what I learned
Mhm.
about relationship that I didn't even know I was learning about. And how can
Mhm.
we see clearly if we don't have contrast? And so, what I was, thinking about, there was something you said, Kristen, I don't remember what it was, but I just remember thinking, oh, you made a choice for your world to get bigger and
Mm,
bigger and
yes.
bigger. So the opportunity for learning in contrast became, um, yeah, more easily accessible.
Mhm. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's a good
And
way
so
to
I,
put it.
and so I think sometimes, we don't want to learn, we don't want to expand because then we don't actually want to realize we have choice.
Yeah. Oh, so I just thought of another resource, which I think is one that helped me so much 15 years ago and became sort of a cornerstone in the work that I did at the company I worked at. And that's through the Arbinger Institute.
Oh, it's yes. Mhm.
Yes. And so the book Leadership and Self-Deception was relatively new back then and
Yeah.
was being passed around to people. And I thought, leadership and self-deception, what an interesting title, and so I read it. It's a fable if you haven't read it.
Yes, I
And
have. Mhm.
it's an amazing way to kind of begin to open up and make your world bigger.
Mhm.
And you're absolutely right. A big part of that, Teresa, is choice.
Yeah.
And when you see that and you begin to own your choices, it kind
Right.
of stings.
Yep.
It's
Uh-huh.
I
it's
had
like,
a part to
oh, I
play.
chose that.
Yeah. No.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I
It's true.
agree. I agree. And actually, I mean, that episode will be coming out, but I just talked about that leadership and self-deception and the anatomy of peace. And I
Uh-huh.
mean, the 5 dysfunctions of a team, all those. I mean, there's just so much learning, right? But
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
do we really want to know?
Right.
And
That's right.
I
Yeah.
think oftentimes, again, no, it's easier if
No,
I don't know. And I'm not saying easier because I don't mean easier in a way that brings freedom or joy or ease.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All we're doing when we don't want to know is we're continuing to have our head stuck in the sand
Hmm.
and asking for bigger and bigger, like, things to happen to us that are not fun.
Hmm.
And trust me, I've had enough of those in my lifetime
Right.
that
Right.
I'm like, I don't need to keep the sledgehammer does not need to get bigger for me to
Yeah.
see that I need to change and that
Right.
I'm creating my reality as much as I wish I could blame other people.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I tell clients, I really feel like my job is to help you lower your threshold so that you don't have to be in
Mm,
so much pain to
mhm.
change. Because we
Yes.
we do some level of pain, has to poke us. I just don't want it to have to be so big.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Mhm.
love that. True.
Oh, we're so complex.
Yeah.
We are, because you can know it and you can say it and then you still do it.
Yeah.
That's right.
But
Yeah.
less and less.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's worthwhile to open up to a bigger world, I
Mhm.
believe.
I believe
And
that
I'm
too.
wondering if you run into this, because it just occurred to me as we were talking, which is a fear that opening up to a bigger world will detract from a high performer. You know, that they're like that,
Mm.
I can't, there's a fear that if I even begin doing that, I'm going to be distracted. I'm not going to continue performing at the level that I've reached, like the $100 million deal guy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe. I never thought about it that way. It's a great way to think about it. I feel like I'm a bit of an achiever. And so when I think about more, I tend to get overwhelmed because I'm like, oh my gosh, where does it stop? And I want to do all these things and create all this stuff. And it sounds really cool and fun. And so for me, I have to work through and sort through kind of all of the stuff coming at me or that I'm creating for myself and find the one or two things that I can really kind of dig into and create. So
Mhm.
that's how that has kind of worked on me.
Mhm.
But I never really thought about maybe it is something that they think would distract them.
Mhm. I
Hmm.
could see that being true,
Well, it may probably subconscious even,
Mhm.
Yeah, for
just a
sure.
little glimmer of awareness of it, but
Mhm.
like, I don't, why would I need to do that?
Mhm. Yeah, no, I think I mean, it's a conversation, that I'll have with people. I mean, because I see such a wide variety of people, but I work with plenty of executives. And, um, what I know for myself is this work only allows me actually to step into more of what is really important to me,
Mhm.
not less.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I could see where people might be
Yeah.
concerned about
And I'm
that.
putting it in terms of executives because that's your experience, but
Yep.
I think it probably applies to anybody. You
Mhm.
know,
Yep.
anyway, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Learning.
Always.
Always is right.
Kristen, when you think about, the hard days or the harder days or the harder times, what are some of the things that you do to help ground and recenter and remind yourself that are outside of like your daily taking care of yourself?
Mhm.
That like what might the awareness be that you have where you're like, I am not doing okay? And then how might you care for yourself?
That's a great question. I have had to, yeah. So I've had to get better at acknowledging that I'm not doing okay and
Mm,
speaking about it because have I've mastered hiding it for
mm,
years. And so that's been a work in progress for sure. And today, Teresa, I will say learning about kind of my human design, which for me, I'm a manifesting generator, and my solar plexus of emotional authority. What that means is that I have this energy that runs through the emotions up and down and up and down. And see, I used to think that all of that was due to the fact that, when it's going up, my life is going well. When it's going down, something bad has happened or is going to
mm,
happen. And I used to think that it was all outside of me.
mm,
And now what I'm come to realize is that's just my normal up and down. And the ups don't have to be so high and the downs don't have to be so low. They can be more kind of regulated, which is what I'm also working on. But recognizing that now, I'm now asking questions pretty often throughout the day. How am I feeling?
mm.
And just sitting, and taking a deep breath and, how do I really feel in this moment? And if I get kind of the answer back from my body, so I'm tuning in more to the body, it's like, we're tired. Then I'll just disconnect from work for a little while. And I'm now able, because I moved to the country a couple years, well, actually a year ago now, but I go outside and I take a walk around my property, and that gives me a chance to kind of let go. It might not really let the feeling go, but the feeling doesn't seem now so bad, right? I'm still maybe feeling tired, but that's okay. And I'm trying to give myself permission throughout out the day to adjust what's on my plate based on this inner energy that I'm feeling.
Mm.
And that's super hard because I come from a world where I'm scheduled out every day.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I'm not allowing that anymore. I
Mhm.
have to have more flow and be able to connect in. And when I'm not feeling that great, sad, angry, whatever, it's okay.
Mm.
Just take a time out and it's okay.
Mm.
And sometimes it's a day or two to get through that. If it's really a low and almost feeling kind of lethargic or depressed, which is not my usual. I've noticed that some lately. It's like, well, okay, what do I need? Do I just need to, I don't know, go have lunch in a restaurant somewhere, or just get out of my surroundings, do something different? So I'm trying to really pay attention to that.
Mm.
Nice.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That is nice.
And tell people, like, I'm pretty
Mm.
close to my daughter,
Mhm.
and I will tell her, listen, I'm kind of feeling grouchy right now.
Mm.
So please don't pick up on this, and please don't think you have to fix this, because we have some similar tendencies.
Mm.
And it's good that I acknowledge that. And
Mhm.
because it's new for me.
Mm. Mm.
I was just visiting with somebody about, recognizing whatever the feeling is, and instead of rushing to a solution and pushing just to be with it, like, walking around your property, it was the
Mhm.
process that I thought about. You were like, it doesn't, I don't have to make it go away. It's just that
Yeah.
I can allow it, was my interpretation of your words. And
Yeah.
I've
No.
got a lot of, that's like it's like, oh, really fascinating, so
Yeah.
something that I'll be working on too. So thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. And I will say, what I have learned is when I do allow it and acknowledge it, it doesn't usually stick around that long.
Yeah.
It's when I'm trying to push through, or actually even just ignore it. That's when it's just becomes louder and louder and nags at me more.
Mm.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. So, at this point of your journey, are there specific intentions that you hold for yourself or goals that you hold for yourself? Or do you keep your, I don't know, journey more open, and then whatever is presented is what you're working on?
it's a great question. So at this point in my life, I actually have some loose goals, which is kind of a newer thing for me. Again, I tend to have lived a very structured life, and that's what I thought you had to do as an achiever. But so some loose goals that I have for, like, I've been writing a book, and I have
Mm.
been writing this book for now over a year, and I'm not done, and I don't know when it will be done. I have every intention of finishing and publishing it,
Mhm.
but I'm also holding that goal kind of loosely.
Mm.
Like, maybe it's this year when it's complete, and maybe it's not, but it feels more like it is this year. So I think I'm leaning more into my intuition and knowing on some of those things. I also have this desire with my work to create a community,
Mm.
because I think that there's a need with the clients that I tend to be working with right now are sort of mid-sized organizations. And they're limited on the resources available, especially to take their HR teams, for instance. So that's what I'm helping them with. And they can't afford and don't really need to have a full-time strategic HR person, a CHRO or an HR leader, but they're missing out on some of the knowledge and expertise that one could bring to them. And so they typically have young HR teams and no one's there to mentor these folks. And so, I'm actually working as a fractional CHRO right now, but I think what I could actually reach more people if I created a community and invited them to be a part of that community.
Sure.
So that's something that's kind of on my mind as well for a future goal.
Mm.
I also think there's more I want to speak about and say and share. I have all this, which is one of the reasons I've started my business, because I have over 30 years of corporate experience, HR experience, not to mention all of the inner work experience I've done.
Right.
And I think I want to find some things I want to be speaking about and putting myself out there more. So that's really on me. I need to get out there more. And that's kind of a step this year that I'm focused on.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. Always more to, I don't know, explore about ourselves, opportunities for us to get clear in our
Yes.
mind and body about the direction that we're
Mm-hmm.
going. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say, I bought the property I'm living at 3 years ago with the intention of remodeling the house, which I've done. And then I was going to create some kind of a retreat space here, which I just don't know. I'm not feeling that right now. I'm not even sure I want to stay out here long term. So, when I think about where I might be, living in a few years, I'm not sure. It may not even be, I've lived in Wichita for over 30 years, may not even be here anymore.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm trying to allow much more freedom and space for new things to come into my life and new opportunities to consider and not hold on to stuff so hard like I have in the past.
Yeah. Yeah. Allow.
Yes, allow for sure.
Yeah. Well, if there is an intention or a mantra that you would like to offer whoever's listening today, what might that be?
I've been thinking a lot about heart-centeredness, and you've probably seen on my LinkedIn and website, I talk about heart-centered leadership. And I think of that both from if you're in an organization leading people, obviously coming from the space of the heart, but even just leading ourselves in a heart-centered way. I think that's where the future is pulling us towards, in this age of Aquarius, where I think we'll be kind of coming more into community in the future. We're not there yet, but I feel that change happening as well. So yeah, that's what I've been focused on, is what can I do to clear my heart, to come from a heart-centered, purposeful place. And if that's just in how you live your life, that's what I would want for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Yeah. Lovely. Well, thank you for your time today, Kristin. It was
Yeah,
great to see you and to
thank
get to
you.
share and connect.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
likewise.
We are so excited about sharing with you our new retreat, Becoming Unshakable from Self-Doubt to Daring.
Yeah. Oh, we love doing retreats. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We really enjoy that group in-person process. Everything that Walker and I create is something that we do with a lot of intention. Every retreat we do is a new retreat. We don't repeat retreats. And so it's always an adventure for us in creating the next one based off where he and I are in our own personal growth journey.
Yeah. We look forward to holding space for you.
Yeah, we hope you'll consider joining us. Thank you for joining us today. We are excited to explore life with you. We encourage curiosity, self-growth, and we strive to be more compassionate every day.